Hi friends, I'm Katie Brinkley and you're listening to Rocky Mountain Marketing. With nearly 2 decades helping business owners, consultants, and coaches with their digital marketing, I know that social media can be an incredible tool to grow your business when you know how to do it the right way. And that's what we're going to do today. I teach you how to navigate the world of entrepreneurship and digital marketing, and hopefully you'll grow your business with a few great tips you wouldn't have known otherwise, and maybe even discover a great local business you love. Let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back to Rocky Mountain Marketing. Today, man, I'm really excited. I'm going to be talking all about overcoming guilt. And my guest today, she comes all the way from around the world. Samantha Pillay is joining us. She overcame physical limitations from hip dysplasia and smashed the glass ceiling to become South Australia's first female urological surgeon. She is a passionate businesswoman, founder, and entrepreneur. She's written a couple books. So her first 2 books were the No Recipe Cookbook and When I'm a Surgeon. They were #1 bestsellers on Amazon. And her her inspirational careers picture book series inspires children to believe in themselves, to dream big and aim high, and instill that self-belief. She's one of the 4 finalist nominees for South Australia Women of the Year or Australian of the Year. Wow, Samantha, I even cut out some of your intro. I mean, like the list goes on. Welcome to Rocky Mountain Marketing. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, Katie. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, and I always love it whenever I have an Aussie on because then I get to hear that fun accent, and it makes me so happy. So, talk to us really quick, Samantha, about what made you decide to become an entrepreneur, because the majority of listeners here on Rocky Mountain Marketing are all entrepreneurs. They're small business owners, and it's always great hearing the why behind why you decided to leave the corporate world.
Well, I never really went into the corporate world as such. I did my surgical training, which, is extensive, more sort of another 10 years after med school. And I was the first woman to do urology. And I saw an area of need in female urinary incontinence. It's an area of urology that often doesn't get a lot of attention. It concentrates on prostates and cancer. And I really wanted to set up a centre of excellence. I saw a need for that to really get a focus and not be left behind or as an afterthought or as a small add-on. And I really wanted that centre. Being the only woman doing my surgical specialty in my state, rather than, I suppose, join another group of surgeons, which is what you often be familiar with surgical practices, I'm sure there. I decided that the way I was going to really get a focus and get attention, because this was like more than 20 years ago, on that area was to and I'm really inspired by North America, which had embraced subspecialization a lot earlier than us, was to set up a center, a unique place that said, okay, we specialize in this particular condition and it's all we do. And I wanted to start that center to create that dream, that vision, to be able to really subspecialize in that area and then attract other people who worked, other surgeons and doctors, healthcare providers that work just in that area to build a center of excellence. So that was how it started. And like most medical students or surgical graduates, I knew nothing about business. I had no experience, no training. And I'd worked in a video store as a medical student, to give you some idea of my age, video hire. Like most small business owners, I had a dream, I had a passion. I wanted to provide a service. I saw a need, I wanted to solve a problem, and I just went for it.
I love that. And I think that with a lot of entrepreneurs, it's something where we don't feel like we necessarily fit into like a round peg trying to fit into a square hole, or maybe it's just the reverse, a square peg trying to fit into a round hole, because we want something more. And I know that for me, with becoming an entrepreneur, it was because I was laid off from my dream job. Like I thought that I was going to be there forever. I had great perks. I had a great boss. And then a merger happened. And I was like, well, well, now what? Everything had been running exactly the way that I wanted it to go. And then I found out I was pregnant. And which is, I say that like with like a down, oh no, but no, I was so excited that I was pregnant with daughter number two. But I was like, man, talk about like terrible timing. Now, what am I going to do? Who's going to want to hire me? And then me be like, well, I'm going to go on maternity leave. So I already was suffering from a lot of mom guilt. And I think that that is one of the biggest things as mom, whether you're in corporate or if you are an entrepreneur, we do tend to have a lot of mom guilt because we're trying to do all the things. We want to be a good parent, and we also want to be a good employee or a good business owner. And so that guilt creeps in. Talk to us just a little bit about, how you can end some of that working mom guilt.
Yeah, I think, you highlighted when it comes to a career, there's never really a good time to have children. The I unfortunately ended up being a single mum, not the dream that I had. And I was a surgeon, and I owned and ran a business, a medical center. So it was pretty crazy. And I grew up, with a stay-at-home mum. I had severe working mum guilt. And I really tried to, in the early days, juggle things. Fortunately, I was able to afford some home help when it came to, cooking, cleaning, and looking after my son as a one-on-one with a nanny and not having to use childcare. So I was in that luxurious position. But I would make sure that I really got rid of all the sort of domestic duties so that when I wasn't working, I could maximize time with my son as far as play. Now, that still wasn't enough because I was working ridiculous hours as a surgeon. And necessity is the mother of invention. I never expected how hard it would be to leave my son once I had him. When you haven't had kids, you sort of think, oh, yes, and I'll just hand him over and pop off to work without any tears. So he came into work every day until he was 18 months of age. And having a business owner as well, which not all doctors go down, gave me some autonomy and flexibility to do a lot of administrative work from home, which is, I think, one reason entrepreneurship is such a fantastic career for women. But also surgery, as I worked for myself. And one of the things I've written about on my website is why surgery, which classically is thought to be the worst career for women, is actually the best career because of the skills you get and the autonomy it gives you. And I realized that there were a number of reasons that why I was able to deal with guilt over time. One is, as everyone says, put on your own oxygen mask first. Okay. I realized that everyone's different, but for me, my love for learning, my love for purpose, my love for work, I love working, made me a better mother than I would have been if I didn't have that career. That was a really important aha moment, that I was going to be a better mum. And then all the skills that I realized that I got that made me a better mum, just like getting up in the middle of the night for emergency and saving someone's life. When a beeper goes off, you're on trauma. Suddenly getting up to breastfeed and stay in your pajamas seemed like a walk in the park. Or dealing with emergencies, all those decision-making skills and judgment that I had years of training for made parenting really easy. So I understood the skills that I got. I understood the opportunities that my son got through my work, and I can talk a bit more about those in detail, but he would never have had those opportunities if I didn't work. And so over time, I came to realize that I was a better mother. I had a better interaction, engagement. I continued to grow and learn because of the constant skills you're learning as a businesswoman. And I was able to teach those to my son. And that really helped me overcome my working mum guilt.
And Samantha, I think that's a really good point because there's nothing to say and there's anything wrong about being a stay-at-home mom, but there's something to be said about being a working mom and still doing all the things and still taking to, the swim practice and the soccer games and all of the different events, still being there. I think one of my aha moments for me, like that kind of got rid of a lot of the mom guilt that I had was I was sitting in the kitchen. I'll never forget it. My daughter was sitting on the floor. She sits by the heater in the mornings. And she was like, "So mom, wait, what is it that you do?" And I was like, "Well, I don't want to go and like trying to, explain social media strategy to her." I was like, "Oh, well, I have clients and, I do stuff for them." She's like, "Oh, so do you have like people that work for you?" And I was like, yeah. So I've got like four, I've got so-and-so. And she was like, "Wait, so you're a boss?" And I was like, yeah, mommy is a boss. And I just saw like when she said that and I said that I was, and she just felt like this pride that like my mom's a boss. That's awesome. And it was just this whole, I was kind of like, yeah, it is pretty cool. I am a boss. I'm able to, help provide for my family. I'm still taking them to school. I'm still picking them up. I'm still taking them to practices. And I've been able to do a lot of that, around a lifestyle that fits for me and my family. And it is a sense of pride that, my daughter is proud of me. It makes me proud that my daughter's proud. And I think that is something that we can use to kind of, put a little flag in our, how far we have come with our entrepreneur journey. So, I mean, like, and I think that too, with being an entrepreneur or being a business owner, it can be hard to try and juggle all of the things. So, how would you talk to us a little bit how you maybe be able to work and still work, but still spend more time with your kids? Because when we're working, like right now, I'm at my office and they are at one's at grandma's and the other one is at a camp, a sport and splash camp. So, I mean, they're gone. So I'm getting my stuff done now, but how would you explain about using work to spend more time with your kids?
Yes, so that's another area. Again, I had to really find a way to. So I think we've talked about trying to separate work and parenting, and we've used that, and that's created the guilt, and that's created this ongoing struggle between work-life balance. Every time you want to spend more time on your career, you feel bad about your and vice versa, and you just go up and down. So I ended up finding a way to use my work to spend more time with my son. So I've only got the one. So what that did is he came to board meetings from the word go. I went to pick him up from kindy when he was about 3. The kindy teacher, I don't know if you call it kindy, said, today your son got all the little toys and sat around on the floor in a circle and said he was having a board meeting. Okay, so the other 3-year-olds aren't doing this, and that's because I took him to work. But it progressed to I was speaking at convention centres around, Australia, and when I was at conferences and on stage, he'd come into all the scientific sessions with me, and even at home, I would often practice, in front of him. I'll get him to time me. If I was doing interviews, get him to ask questions. He's just won his school public speaking competition as a teenager. So I use him, how crazy it is, like just doing school drop-off in the morning. It's like, okay, tell me what's on my day sheet. It's like my own PA. Send this SMS, send this email. He can type and text way faster than I can. So even topics that I've had to, you have to research sometimes online, can you answer this question? Because they use all those researching skills at school. So he's learned a whole lot about public speaking, the self-publishing world, doing interviews. I've utilised him in my work. It builds great skills that he's going to need in life. And it builds what you were talking about, which is respect.
Yeah.
And not only that, networking, he's had amazing experience. He's got to meet people that he wouldn't have otherwise ever had to meet if I didn't have the sort of career that I have, that have given me wonderful opportunities to meet people or conferences or hear amazing keynote speakers at events. So by taking him and engaging him and utilizing him in my work, even in the tech side, can you edit this video for me? Can you fix this for me? Helps us collaborate and become engaged and not separate him from work. And I know that I'm able to give him amazing skills and opportunity at the same time.
Yeah. And I think that exactly with, what you're saying there, like you've shown him that there's a whole nother way of having a career. You can be a speaker. The networking is an extremely important part of being a business owner. And, like before I owned my own business, I've said this on the podcast a lot, but I was always like, why would anyone want to go talk about work after work? That sounds horrible. Why would people want to go networking? But as a business owner, it's everything. You need to be networking. You need to be hearing other people's stories, and not just for new business, but it really is all about who you know when opportunities present themselves. I grew up from both my parents worked at corporate jobs, but my dad was a side hustler. So he was a flight attendant for United Airlines. And when he was home, in addition to being my softball coach, he also was a realtor for a time. He was also he owned his own window screening business. I mean, like he did a number of different things. And looking back on it now, I see that I gained a lot of those qualities because now I'm like with social media, I was doing it as a side hustle. I had my corporate job, but I always was trying to learn new ways to grow my reach and help businesses out on social media. Being a social media anything didn't exist up until about a decade ago. So, I mean, it was always in addition to. But by having that side hustle of like helping bands with their MySpace pages in exchange for free concert tickets, it then showed me the pathway of entrepreneurship and having my own business. And I probably would have never even thought about the side hustle if my dad wasn't a part-time entrepreneur. So talk to us just a little bit about how, when you are an entrepreneur and like what you're doing with your son, he'll sit in the car and he helps you with notes. He's at events networking with you. Talk to us a little bit about how that helps build up confidence and self-belief and maybe a little bit of those entrepreneur qualities in your children.
So I spent quite a bit of time thinking actually about this because my second children's picture book was When I'm an Entrepreneur. And those books come out of exactly what you're talking about. I think the number one foundation is self-belief. So all the entrepreneurs out there that are spending that sweat equity are doing it because they believe in their dream. They believe that it's going to go somewhere, that they're going to have a breakthrough, that they're going to get success, that it's going to pay off long term. And that without that self-belief, nothing really follows through. And so that's why I'm passionate about building self-belief from an early age, as well as addressing career gender stereotypes because of my specific role with so few women being surgeons. But from that self-belief then becomes self-esteem, self-confidence, perseverance in the face of adversity, and all the other things that you need to make your dream come true. And part of that journey resulted in me looking at what I felt were the key qualities of entrepreneurship and then converting those into a children's picture book. Things like having big dreams, doing things differently, having a daily routine, reading every day, standing on the shoulders of giants, running your own race. And these are the mantras that have become from the When I'm an Entrepreneur book with illustrations. And like most things, the best way that you instill those qualities of entrepreneurship in your child is to lead by example. And so when you're an entrepreneur, if you're living those qualities, learn from my mistakes, solve people's problems, all the things it takes, they see that. And children are amazing because for them, they don't learn it, they absorb it. And it just becomes a given where we've had to kind of almost teach ourselves that that's the way. They start off from our base, it's a given, and they fly from there. So I have felt that, those entrepreneurial qualities, even if your children are not going to become an entrepreneur, are fantastic skills in life The other thing that you highlighted with your father is, and I think really important for the future, is these hybrid skills and the ability for people to have so many areas that they specialize in. We all know that people are going to be spending less time in their career and have multiple careers now rather than the one career for life. But the world's a changing place. And even within those careers, another one of the articles that I've written on my website talks about how I was so surprised that going out and writing actually helped me become a surgeon just with the skills. The other thing is learning new things, challenging our brain. And being a surgeon might sound challenging, but after 20 years, learning other things about what I was doing isn't anywhere near as challenging as a whole new industry, and all the skills, as well as the opportunity to do something creative or use parts of my brain that wouldn't be used normally in my traditional role. And they're also really important as far as maintaining your mental acuity. And that is really important for strategic thinking and business decision-making as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. And I think that even when we don't think our kids are watching, they are, that's one of the, man, my 7-year-old, she throws me for a loop. Like I'll be saying something or doing something, and then she'll all of a sudden pipe up with something. I'm like, how did you remember that I didn't think you were even listening? But she's always watching, always observing. And it's neat to see the qualities that you value start to emerge in your children. Well, Samantha, this has been an awesome episode. You've shared a ton of great tips about, just being confident in what you're doing and, passing it along to our kids, because it can sometimes make us, I know I struggle with it even taking time off during the summer, I really reduced my workload so I can be at home with my kids more. And when I was blocking out my calendar, I was like, oh gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this. Is this enough time to get stuff done? Is this enough time to allow client calls? And I was like, it is, and yeah, I might not be closing as many new deals in the summer, but that's okay. I'm at home with them and I'm spending time with them. And you know what? In about another 6-7 years, they're probably not going to care about hanging out with mom and going to the pool because they'll be with their friends. So taking advantage of it while I can. So Samantha, where's the best way that people can get those books of yours and connect with you further online?
So the Amazon and all the other online retailers is the easiest place to get the books. The No Recipe Cookbook, which is another problem I had to solve, which was what's for dinner if you don't cook, and the children's picture books, When I'm a Surgeon, When I'm an Entrepreneur, and coming out in a couple of months is When I'm an Astronaut. There'll be a pre-order available. So if people want to join my mailing list, they can go to my website, Samantha Pillay, Pillay.com. And there I've got articles written on the topics that we've discussed. There's free colouring pages that people can download for their kids from the activity books. There's meal samples, chapters from the No Recipe Cookbook. And there's all my social media links for LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for joining me today. It has been awesome having you on the show. And I can't thank you enough for waking up early to join us on this episode today.
Thank you, Katie. It's been fantastic. This is the virtual travel that most of us have been doing for a long time. So I'm actually going more places now further because everything's online. So it doesn't make any difference.
Well, welcome to Denver.
Exactly. What a way to start the day.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. Make sure to subscribe so that you can continue navigating the world of entrepreneurship. And I'd love to hear from you. Please leave the show a review and connect with me on social media. You can find me on Instagram at @IamKatieBrinkley or connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you're ready to start making some sales on social media, be sure to grab my free guide to selling in the DMs without being spammy. You can get that at KatieBrinkley.com. Let's keep taking your marketing to all new heights.